Hello, welcome to Quilting with Peggy. Today we're going to talk about easy quilting. I know some of you are thinking, yeah, right, but it really is, and we're going to make a baby quilt. Now you may think that's ridiculous. I don't need a baby quilt, but you will. Someone you know will have one, or a granddaughter, or maybe even you. And they're really nice things to make if you have lots of scraps and just put aside for when you do need one. I have a friend and she loves to quilt, but after you've made 2 or 3 quilts for every family member, nobody wants any more. So she makes wedding gifts and baby gifts, and she makes quilts or table toppers or something, and she puts them away, and when she's invited to a shower, she already has her gift made. So it's really nice to have a few, ahead of yourself. This one today that we're going to make is called the Easy Baby Quilt. And I found it online so that anyone that wants to can go online and get it. Just put in free Easy Baby Quilt and the pattern should come up. And it's free, so that's even better. So this one calls for a center, and I was thinking about different centers that you could use, and I laid out some fabrics here because, half the world loves John Deere. And you could put a John Deere print in the center of your quilt. Owls are very popular right now, and you could just get a print that has owls on it. Put that as your center. I also have trains and cowboys, and then I have a Mickey Mouse print. Kids love Mickey Mouse. You could even give this to an older child, not a baby, because they love Mickey Mouse. So those are some things you could put in the center of your quilt. I chose a tiger because, in this area we all love tigers, right? So this is going to be the center of our quilt, and as you can see, around 3 of the size I have cut an 1/2 inch edge. I'm going to do that on the bottom to show you how easy it is. Now for you that are not quilters but you love to sew, this is something you could do too because it's just very, very basic. So we're going to cut a 1/2 inch edge off of this block, and then we're going to start working with it. My cutter here has been dropped, and so I have a dull edge. And when you have a dull edge, it leaves a little spot every time you cut. So let's get this taken off. There we go, and that's trash. So now we have a 1/2 inch all the way around. Now I want to show you how to sew perfectly down this line, because I know when you use panels, it's hard sometimes to get that line just perfect so you have a little beige showing, and so I'm going to show you how. The square in the center is supposed to be larger than this. It's supposed to be a 16-inch square, so I'm going to add some border to my picture so that it's a little bit bigger than it is. So you line up your fabric with your piece that you're using for the center, and then you turn it to the back so that you can see that line, and you're going to sew straight down that line. So let's do that right now. Okay, I want to show you how perfect that turns out. So you see, you're right on the line. There's no beige hanging out. You're right on the line as you should be. Okay, we're going to cut that piece off, and we're going to sew the other side. all of our pieces are going to be sewn like this. They're going to be sewn on the two sides and then on the two tops. Or the top and the bottom, not the two tops. All right, let's do the same thing with this one. All right. Trimming those threads. I have a lady in one of my classes, and this week she said, I spent a whole day trimming threads. And I said, that's good, that's good. Because, you know, threads make me crazy. I don't like to see sloppy work. Okay, now we're going to do the bottom edge. Now, when you're making this, I want to remind you to always turn your edges towards the dark side. The reason we do that is if we flipped it down like this, there might be just a little bit of orange that would show through on the front side, and you don't want that. So always flip it towards the dark side. All right, so we're almost through. One more side and we'll be through framing out. Our tiger. Okay, so we've framed out our tiger, and that was just so we could make our square a little bit bigger. Now the pattern calls for everything to be cut in 6-inch strips. So it will say 6-inch, and then it has a little sign and it says WOF. Took me a while to figure that one out. WOF. And then I realized it was width of fabric. So you're doing a 6-inch, the width of the fabric. And I've cut some of those so that you can see that we've already got them cut. That's for another set. The next piece I'm going to put on this is this bright green, and it goes really nice with the green in the tiger print. I wanted to mention something else. Anytime you're making a quilt, anytime, you want to pick a fabric that has different colors. For instance, if I pick this, I could use a yellow, a pink, a green, a brown, all those colors to complement this. So that's what you want to do. You want to pick out something, maybe you like flowers. You want to pick out something that has other colors than your main, and then you want to pick those to complement that fabric. So that's what we're doing with our tiger. We've got the orange, which is what he is, and now I'm going to put this bright green around the edges. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to do our two sides, and then we're going to do the top and the bottom. And your seam allowance is always a 1/4 inch. I was reading some statistics the other day, and it said that 90% of quilters are over 55. That's probably true, because most of the people that come in here are around that age. And then I also have realized that the younger set does not like flowers. They like bright colors. Sometimes they like abstracts, but they don't want anything with flowers in it. See, my generation loves flowers, but the younger ones do not. And it's important for us that quilt that we introduce quilting to the younger generation. We don't want it to be something else that dies out. And it's a fun craft to do, and it's something that you can pass down to your children. All right, I have one side sewn on. You see how that's going to bring that green out? And now I'm going to put the other 3 on. Okay, so I've sewn that green around. Now you see how it brings out that tiger in the center? It just really makes it pop. And you see how easy this is. All we've done is sewn strips onto a square. Now we're going to start with our next step. And I've taken these colors that are down here and I've sewn them together. These are each 6-inch strips width of fabric. And this is what they look like all sewn together. So now we're going to take this piece and we're going to cut it into 6-inch strips. Anytime that you have to make a row of blocks for a quilt, if you'll sew all your strips together, then when you cut them, you have your rows already made. It just makes it a whole lot easier. Make sure we got that where we need it, and we're going to cut this one. Maybe we'll do that one more time so we can make sure. Yeah, good. Okay, now we're going to cut 6 inches. 3, 6. You know that old saying, measure twice, cut once? It's also important when you're doing fabric. You don't want to wind up with something not the right size and then not enough to finish what you need to do. All right, so I have 3 strips now that are all blocked, and I'm going to add them to the side of my quilt. Now you'll notice that I don't need the full length here, but when I get to the top, up here, I'll need all of that. So we just want to make sure we have enough. So on this one right here, I'm going to go ahead and sew it on, and then we'll cut off the excess. You notice I didn't cut off my selvage. That's fine. Selvage is the edge of the fabric that they put on the printers. They put this part on them before they print the fabric. And that's called the selvage. And you can cut it off. I just don't. I use it as my seam. So we're going to sew down this side. Okay, and you'll also notice I'm not back stitching. You're not supposed to back stitch in quilting. I'm not sure why. The only reason I can think of is when you have to rip out, you don't have to do that extra thread. And sometimes you do have to rip out. Okay, I'm going to cut this off right here. And my first side is attached. Okay, now I'm going to do my other 3 sides, and then this one will be ready to go. We're going to cut one more 6-inch strip and attach it to the top. And then we only have one more set of strips to attach, and we are all done with the front. I want you to know that all of these scraps came from my stash at home, so I didn't buy anything. And I'm sure that some of you have pretty good stashes out there. just find a center and match stuff up to it, and you could make stuff for nothing but your time. All right. Here's our block again. Okay, and we're going to attach this to the top. And then we have just one more set of strips to put on. Now I think you could give this to either a boy or a girl, because I know a lot of parents now decorate their rooms in wild animals, and this would be a nice one to give. Okay, I also found this in my stash, and this is a really fun fabric, and it's going to bring those animals out, and we're going to put that on the sides. So let's line up our side strips. As you'll see when we finish this, you really can make this in a day. Some of those quilt patterns that say quilt in a day, that's not true. I've tried them. But this one you really can, you know, sit down for an hour or two and have a little gift done. And especially with the hot weather outside, it's nice to be inside doing something in the air conditioning. All right. So here is this side. You see how it's going to finish that off with more animals? And we're going to cut off this little extra piece down here. And then we're going to take this piece. We want to make sure our animals, well, I guess they go every which way. We're going to attach this to this other side. And then I'll show you how to do the top and the bottom. All right, now I have the top and the bottom. You'll notice that on the sides my animals run that way, and on the top and the bottom they run across. If you're cutting a fabric that it has a diagonal direction, you want to make sure that you cut it so that your animals go the right way. Do you understand? Okay, so you see the sides are going up and down, and the top and bottom they'll be going across. So you want to make sure and cut your fabric like that. All right. Now we're going to add end caps to each of our fabrics. I've lost my scissors. Okay, so we're going to add this end cap here, and this one here, and then we'll do the same thing to the bottom piece before we add them to our quilt. I keep losing my foot pedal. There it is. All right, so here's this end cap, and you'll see that it matches right up there. And then we're going to come across here and put this one on here. All right, and then we'll sew that across the top. We're going to do the same thing at the bottom. there's our quilt, and it's all put together, and it was basically free because it all came from my stash at home, and you can make it in a day. I hope you enjoy it when you sew and you quilt, because it's very enjoyable to me. So I just want to wish you happy sewing, and see you next time.